Hello and welcome to our game. Delighted to be back with you every Thursday afternoon in association with Lottoland. And delighted to have a couple of minutes before we started. He was in a dark room, but I'd say there's a bit more light coming into that room. Pat Ryan, how are you doing?
How are you, Verney?
Good.
Good to see you.
I don't know about you, but this time of the year, and even just as after hitting me today, we're getting the clocks are getting ready to go back. You get the feeling there's lads that are going to come out of the woodwork now at club level, and that you can almost taste the fresh cut grass as well, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. And the good weather, even the last 10 days, makes a big difference. Like I was only having a few pucks in the local field here yesterday, and the ground hardens up very quick. When you get good weather for the space of 10 days, it can harden up fierce quick. And Larry Corbett's famous saying, "It's a backs game until April," is going to come to pass again. I think the backs have had their fun now, putting and dragging for the last couple of months. So it's great. The hurling will get better and faster and sharper now. Coming in the league, and obviously championship's only 4 weeks away. I'd say this weekend, is it?
Yeah, 4 weeks. Yeah.
So that's nothing, so it's really exciting.
It's gas, isn't it? When you look at it, lads get their debuts, let's say January, February, and you could be flying. And I have no problem putting my hand up and saying that time of the year would have definitely suited me a lot better than, let's say, June or July. It's a different game completely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so different. And even in Limerick for years, we do all our training with say when you're back in December out in Rackeel, which is pure, it's real tough. The pitches aren't great, because obviously that time of the year, etc. And then coming to the end of the league, start the championship, we never got into the Gaelic grounds until maybe the 1st of April or the after Paddy's Day. And like that, then you get such a new lease of life. I think as a forward, you get a fierce lease of life coming into, an open stadium like that and better grounds for training, etc. So no, it's amazing. And I think when we're talking about teams in the league so far, it's amazing when lads can be playing well in 1 year, at the start of the year, and then veer down, and then some other leg can just come in all of a shot, and there's those examples obviously over the years where you wouldn't see a fella like Shane O'Brien last year couldn't make the 26 with Limerick in the first 2 rounds. Third round, he might have made the 26, didn't come on, and then once they're final he starts and was close to getting man of the match. So there's all these shooters and lads like that some lads are playing really well now and they want to keep it up, and some lads they'll be hoping to time it for the next month or even further on, maybe in 2 months' time. You
do actually see certain lads, the brain clicks at a certain time of the year. They know, okay, we're 6, 7, 8 weeks out here. Not that they haven't been knuckling down to that point, but they really get zoned in on my time of the year is coming here. There is only a certain way, like you can't be playing brilliant all year. That's a difficult thing to do. Only real special players can do that. Have you noticed that, even without mentioning any names? But there are certain lads that where it clicks at a certain time of the year.
Yeah. Like, and you know what? It's a great excuse for fellas as well. Like I used to even like that now when I said like we used to win to get a grounds coming in the league. I used to actually, as a mental thing for me, I used to feel that it would give me a couple of yards on marking a corner back. Because the ground is hard and stuff, I used to feel like a bit more confident in that turn of the year. I was like, okay, I think I'm going to start playing better now. Even though you try as hard as you can because you're a fella trying to make the team, etc. We'll say in January, February, March. But in April, like you think some fellas can use it and say, do you know what, I think I could be a step or two better now than I've been for the last 2 months. But look, I one fella that gets an awful time at Limerick, and I thought he was actually one of our best players last week. He always gets kind of a slagging for being a slow starter, is Tom Morrissey. You know, because he always does seem to start slow, but he has the work he puts in is incredible. That I think even the years gone by where he might have started slow in the league, he'd have fierce confidence in himself anyway. By the time the championship would come around. But Tom was just one of them players that no one worries about him either. Like, you know what I mean? When fella, if he doesn't have a great league game in February, say like nobody's too worried, thinking like, oh, Tom is on the way down. No, Tom will time it, and Tom will probably always be in your top 3 or 4 most consistent player throughout the championship. That's the way he's been for like the last 6 or 7 years anyway. So, but I do think last week now he sped it up. When we get onto that game, I know, but I thought in the first half he kept us in it for a lot of it, and he got 2 very important points in play. So it's great to see Tom back from his travels, and I think he'd have a big year. I think the travels. I know you might have said it before, or we might have discussed it before. Like the last 3 hurlers of the year, I'm not pushing any pressure on Tom. The last 3 hurlers of the year didn't play in the months we're talking about there. Shannadon last year, Diarmaid Burns and Aaron Gillan were both away and travelling in the 2 years of day one. Either year that day one hurler of the year. Like Diarmaid in 22 was his partner Elaine was in Dubai, and he went over there for 2 or 3 months earlier in the year. So it can definitely stand to fellas, I think, to get that bit of a break.
Yeah, particularly some lads would take it wrong and be thinking, oh, I need to get a break. But if you have the work done consistently over a period of years, I think a break is great, and you have the muscle memory there. Whereas some other lads taking a Josh, these boys are taking a break and they don't have the work done, but that's a different thing. Yeah, the Rakiel thing I wanted to chat to you about. It's funny. Yeah, we were the same even awfully back in the day. You could train everywhere, and then come April, you'd be in O'Connor Park, and the start would be lovely. And again, there was a different frame of mind. Dublin used to train up in Innisfails, and it was bleak now by all accounts. I've never been up there, but by all accounts, it was pretty bleak. You kind of have to get through the dark stuff to see the light of the Gaelic grounds, though, don't you?
Yeah, and it's because every session you do in December, January, February, even the first half of March, is in the dark. It's with the lights are on.
Yeah.
So there is something extra special and nice then when you go to a training session at 7:00 in the evening when the clocks go forward, and it's that bit brighter for that session. It gives a fierce lift. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of teams now will be looking for that lift over the next couple of weeks, over the next week even probably, such as it goes into the fourth championship. You want players. I think especially players that aren't in a great vein of form will love a change up like that, and they love to almost put the league to bed in as such. Like some fellas that aren't in a great vein of form now this weekend, they'd be crying out for some bit of the form to improve on Saturday, and then they can say, right, I can park that now, I'm on the right road, I've been here before, etc. Because, I think we have a few players in that in Limerick that, the league hasn't went as well as they'd like, but at the same time, they're experienced enough that they won't lose sleep over either. It's different if you're a young player,
Yeah. You were mentioned there that you were up on the pitch poking around. I don't know if you've watched The Last Dance. Michael Jordan has the little machine where the ball comes back to him. You've your own little machine by all accounts.
I do, yeah. Training the dog there to bring the ball out to me. That's what we said. I think that's my version of don't run about lads that get a break, go away for a couple of months, tease up the bodies after years of training. That's my way now. I don't have to run in and get the ball. He brings it back out. It
is a fair time saver. You can just focus on your accuracy. You don't have to focus on, and you're not going to be as bollocks going trained or whatever, having ran in and out about 20 or 30 times or more, probably.
Yeah. You can't be having a big bag of sitters as well, like, do you know what I mean? And just fucking loads more to bear. Not because I remember when you're a young lad, when you're like 14, 15, you might only go onto the field with 2 balls or something like that. Yeah. And sure, well, maybe that's why we were better to run back then as well, because you'd be in and out like a yo-yo, like, whereas now if you have 10 or 15 balls, it's great, you know what I mean? Especially on days like yesterday and today. That's what you want to do, like, you know what I mean? You just want to have a few pucks and stuff like that, and the winter's behind us, and we're back training tomorrow night with the club now, so it's kind of the longest extended break we've had off the field with the club over the years. We always would have been back before now, but it's fellas are just chomping at the bit to get out,
Do you remember when you were a young lad and you only had 1 ball, and if that ball went, goose, I could spend hours looking for 1 ball. It's I don't know. Sometimes there's a bit something nice in that hardship, and not just going and getting another one or something like that.
Yeah,
basically getting the hurling as a bill hook in the ditch, trying to find it.
You go looking for it in the ditch, and you might find another one.
Yeah, true. Very true. Yeah, very true. Just looking at the action, Pat. P-Well74 is straight in here with a question up the top. He just Stockroom Tim it was. Would you have Galan in ahead of Dowling? What have you made of the goalkeeping situation so far in Limerick, Pat?
Very interesting knowledge. You know what I mean? It's interesting to see. Obviously, it's this back and forth of Jason started the first game against Cork, and he was excellent. And you know what? Before the start of the games, if you were writing down their attributes, people would have had Jason. People would have had Shane, because Shane was always one of the best free takers I ever saw. People would have had. I think Shane could add scores to this team from long range frees. But over the games, I think Jason has scored more than him from long range frees, and I think Jason has probably been better in long range frees. And then Shane has been probably better at the more traditional goalkeeping, even though Jason would have probably a bit more years experience behind him. But to be honest, in fairness to Shane now, he's made more what you call, showstoppers in terms of saves between the Galway game and the Kilkenny game. I think it was the Galway game he played, and he played in the Galway game. And obviously last week, the first one against Billy Ryan was an outstanding save. No, Billy Ryan probably should have popped into TJ Reid. Maybe he would have done it in championship, but it was some save. I'd say at the moment it looks like Shane will probably nab it, but again, you don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I'd imagine Jason will get a chance this Saturday night now, and if he comes up and has a great game, it's definitely it's very, very close. It's very, very close. I'd say Shane, just if I was to have a guess, being at the games, I'd say Shane just slightly at the moment.
Are you hearing the same type of things I'm hearing, and even the vibe that John Kiley was given when asked about Nicky Quaid? Like, it's definitely not inconceivable that he plays championship. Maybe not Munster, but that's the sort of vibe I'm getting, that his recovery is going particularly well.
Yeah, and even when it first happened, I think people were saying originally that, okay, if Limerick could get out of Munster, that's very, very possible he plays. But you have a long way to go to get out of Munster, and I think Even if you knew for a guarantee, we'll just say he was back for the 4th round or back for a Munster final. Like we already know in Limerick that we have to have another goalie before then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then you're hoping whichever one of them does get the nod, you're hoping it goes well, because you remember when Clare tried a new goalie 2 years ago?
Yeah.
That lad, which is such an unforgiving position, he never got back in since. Remember Tip, they got away a couple of goals, the Tip beating down in us. So you'll be hoping that when we do play goalie, we only play one, that the two of them don't get a run.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Just on that as well, even the mental side of things. Like, geez, if you have a bad day in the goals, you'd want to be fair mentally strong to bounce back, wouldn't you? Like, it's totally unforgiving. Like, not being smart. Say you're playing corner forward or that for doing or whatever. If you go for 10 balls, if you get 5 of them and 3 of them turn into scores, you're in good shape. But if 10 balls come near a keeper and 2 of them go between his legs or one is caught in the sun, it's so unforgiving.
Yeah. No, I will say, look, it's the hardest place to play on the field, definitely, goals. I will say I do think corner forward is the second hardest, because if you miss a couple of balls, cornerback, and the wingback misses a few, at half time we're down 5 points. Corner forward's coming off. First man to go. So that's why I throw the corner forward in for the second most hardest position. But no, Jesus, I don't know if you've ever played in goals. I've never played in there, thank God, and I hopefully never will. I played in goals on soccer under 12, and I wasn't great, so I got out of there as quick as I could. But sure, it's like a different sport altogether. You know what I mean? And even what I fierce admiration for goalies is the high ball that comes in that you just have to catch. That if you don't catch it, it's you look terrible. But like some of them catches are so hard. Yeah. And okay, the fullback might be keeping out, but there's 2 or 3 hurleys made in front of you, and the standard of the goalkeeper is so good that you very rarely do see him dropped. You know what I mean? I remember Patrick Collins. Remember when Galway beat Cork in the quarterfinals?
Yes, yeah,
Patrick Collins, and he actually had a great game after that, and they only lost by a point or 2. And then of course it was all anyone was talking about on the way home. Asher, a goal like that going in, it's just like I said. I wouldn't like to be in there now. I don't know about you. Maybe you will end up there another couple of years.
No. I'm done now as it is. My legs gave way, and you have to be you have to have silky touches playing goals, and you have to be very well rounded in a lot of attributes. You have to be obviously good on the ball. You have to be good under high ball. My eyes now wouldn't be the best to the goals, and the best thing you can do to never playing goals is just go in there one time, or even in training, and even if you have to make a show of yourself, at least they'll never put you back in there again. The worst thing you can do is go and play well in that position if it's not somewhere you plan on playing.
That's true, yeah. I've never even played, even all my life under 8, I've never even played a game in the backs, so I haven't gone back that far even. So, are you fully retired? No, you're not even.
I'm 2 hours away from home, and I wouldn't have any interest in playing with anybody else. I'm actually doing a bit of coaching at the minute. So that's kind of get me kind of kicks out of that. But I finished on the field and uninjured, which was a rarity for me. So I was quite happy with that, to be fair.
Happy days.
Yeah. Just as regards Limerick so far in the league, Pat, there's a couple of comments up top here just saying that like Limerick nearly are happy not to be in a league final. What do you think of that? Even the psychology of if they had one potentially playing Tip and then playing Tip in a fortnight's time, are they happy enough probably with what they got with league without maybe going to the very latter stages?
Look, I don't know what the actual group itself are happy or not. Like, you know what I mean? Just looking in from the outside, I'm going to put this right way now. Like, I don't think we're as far ahead. I don't like when people are speaking about teams. Like when you look at it black and white, the 3 teams that we failed to beat this year, Kilkenny, Clare, Cork, the 3 of them have been in the All-Ireland semi-finals last year. So they're other top 3 teams, and we lost the All-Ireland last year. So we're obviously bulling to get back, bulling to do well in the league. We failed to beat all 3 of those teams. We drew a Cork, we lost to Kilkenny, we lost to Clare. So, you know what I mean? If you were grading it, I don't think you could give it, a very, very, very positive grade. Now, at the same time, you're dealing with a lot of players and a panel that are very confident in themselves and can turn around. And there's examples there like that. The majority of that squad have been through both. They've been through where they've won leagues, and they've been through times where there's been setbacks. You know what I mean? Like even last year, sure, we lost Kilkenny by 9 points last week. Last year we lost them by 8. Yeah. In the league semi-final. Now, but there is repercussions to that too. There was fellas who had started a league quarter-final, like Adam English last year started a league quarter-final, started against Kilkenny in the league semi-final, and then he was dropped after that game then. And never got back in. So there could be some lad now who played the last day above in Kilkenny who he could lose out now. That because it's so close to championship. if you underperform in a league game in round 5 or 6, it's worse than underperforming in a league game in round 1 or 2. Do you know? So
Yeah,
look,
and who
up,
are they going to go with? The new lad that didn't play that well against Kilkenny, or the fella that's done it probably for 6 years?
Exactly. And so that's what happened last year. Because again, it's amazing hurling. You know what I mean? Things can move so fastly. The week before in that league quarter, I know it was a league quarter final, or was it just the last round against Galway? But remember, we drew. We went down 14 men, and Adam Lynch got 5 points in play that day. He got man of the match. Do you know? And then next day still starting, and then the next day then you're out. But that's obviously when you have such a competitive panel. You'll see that in a lot of teams at the moment. You know, where it's small margins, and some fella will just come out if you're not producing it, and some other fella will go in. And look, players know that too, like, you know. So if we beat Wexford on Saturday, we will have won 3 games, but they would have been against the 3 teams that are rated below the other 3 teams that were in the Ireland semi-final last year, and the 3 teams we'll have won were all home games as well. No, look, it's very important to win your home games. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not putting them down because I'm definitely not confident going into championship, because like I said, we've been there before. I remember in 2021, or after winning 2 leagues back to back in 19 and 20, and All Ireland in between and 2 Munsters. In 2021, our first 3 league games, we didn't win any of them. We drew with Tip. We lost to Galway at home, and we had a red card in that game. And then we went down, and Waterford beat us below. Jack Fagan got a goal in the last 2 minutes. He's very good in the air from the ball across the square.
Yeah, remember that.
In going on 6 years, I'd say it's the only win Cahill has against Kiley in league or championship, I'd say, is my guess.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I missed the goal chance near the end as well, so some of that I still remember it. That's but you know, so we didn't pick up a win in the first 3 games there, you know, and then in the 4th round we were playing Cork at home. 4 to 5 weeks before we played Cork, it wasn't round robin, it was the Munster quarter final. So the pressure that was on that game, even though you wouldn't admit it on the outside, we knew, and we Westmeath in round 5, so we knew that if we lose this game to Cork, not only are we playing Cork in 4 weeks, we haven't beaten one team that's playing, you know what I mean, in the McCarthy, would say, Liam McCarthy Cup that year. And we, you know, there was an added sense of pressure there. And after each game, like the first game we drew a Tip, okay, it's not too bad, we keep it, all right, Galway, okay, we had a red card, we'll bounce back against Waterford. But then we still hadn't done it, do you know what I mean? We're still going to a 4th game without a win, and then you know, and teams, management will give you so much, and they'll say things, but eventually, no matter, even if management are saying the right thing, if you don't get a result to back up what they're saying and telling you to do, you can start to lose faith very quickly. Now, luckily, we won that day, and we played really well against Cork in that league game, hoping to get a crowns, and then we bounced back, and then 4 or 5 weeks later we played Cork and Thurles, and we won. Played well. I remember Darragh Donovan got a goal.
That's right, yeah. Before half time, wasn't it?
Yeah. He left Sean O'Nu's arse went in. Probably an OG if anything, but do you know, so but again, if we didn't get that win, I you know what I mean, the 4 weeks leading up to championship from the Cork game would have been, you know what I mean, it would have been, I think there would have been more nerves there than it was, whereas league games can give you a fierce vote of confidence when you get them. Like Kilkenny needed that win so badly. Big time. They needed it so badly. Like I thought they were really poor against Tip. You know what I mean? I don't think any Kilkenny player would disagree with you, even before the red cards. You know, and had lost to Galway at home as well. So, God, they needed that win badly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny, like, it is such a confidence game, isn't it? And you can have the muscle memory of knowing that you've won this and you've won that, but eventually you do need to get a win on the board, and it just eases everything. Even you can fall over the line in a game sometimes, and it's just like, there's the release valve almost, and like, okay, we're back on track. We're back on track, because you're not back on track if you're beaten by 1 or 2, or you lose 4 or 5 games in a row. Like, you actually played Offaly. I think the year you're talking about there, did you play Offaly in the last round? And it was basically, if you'd drawn or lost, I think you were actually relegated. I think that year, am I right in saying? Is that the same year? I think. Yeah.
That could have been 22 even. I think
22. Okay.
Look, confidence. If you could bottle confidence and sell it, you'll be a billionaire. And I think when you look at even like some of the players, you take Limerick game the other day, for example, like if you go through 1 or 2 lads that aren't playing that well at the moment, what they're doing is when they've no confidence, you've no confidence, you'll hand pass the ball instead of strike the ball.
Oh, totally, yeah.
You know what I mean? When you've no confidence, you will turn back. You'll turn back to give the ball to a player instead of going forward. Do you know what I mean? And like a good example, even Shane O'Brien's goal, the Bulls' goal against Galway, he was after getting a great point at the start of the game, and when he got half a chance to get inside his man, then he was, you know what I mean, he was in for the goal. even though he'd probably have to take on 2 players. Like, conference is just amazing. The best of players in the world, and even there's players there that have won hurlers of the year and all star, they still need conference too. Do you know what I mean? You just need it as you're going through. And look, the funny thing about it is it doesn't come until you perform. You know, you can't fake it either. Like, you could sit in a room and talk to someone about it on a Tuesday and a Thursday, but if you don't go out Saturday, and if you can't actually, we'll say, get out of you what you know is in you, it doesn't come back until you get it. So that's why it's still, even though this game is maybe classified as a dead rubber on Saturday, it's still an important game for some fellas that are maybe looking to get a bit of confidence back, you know what I mean, and actually do what they can do that they mightn't have been doing in the earlier rounds.
Yeah, but you're putting a bow on the league, aren't you? And it's like, a good performance there to finish. And now we're out in a couple of weeks, and it's kind of everything else that came before that is kind of forgotten about. Just a couple of quick random questions here, Pat. D-Tux 101 just says, if Pat had to pick a player to take a last-minute free 100 yards out to win an All-Ireland, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Doesn't have to be from Limerick, obviously.
It doesn't have to be from Limerick, but the automatic 2 I'm thinking about are from Limerick, between Jimmy Burns and Shane Dowling. Because I just seen a lot in terms of long range free. Obviously, I think TJ Reid and Pat Horgan are probably the 2 best free takers out there. You know what I mean? But Hoggy doesn't really take the long range ones as much, doesn't he?
I don't like Horgan's style as much. I don't like the trajectory of the ball in the air as much as I do TJ's. I think TJ strikes it probably about a full hurl length above the crossbar, like an arm extended and a hurl in your hand. And it never wavers depending on breezes or anything like that. And he takes out a lot of variables out of that. I don't like Horgan hitting frees as much now. Been honest.
Yeah, he doesn't miss many, in fairness to him. No. He's an incredibly accurate free taker. But to be honest, look, I'd actually, even though I don't see him taking many long range ones, but just in terms of even when he's gotten goals unneeded in terms of 21s against St. Thomas a couple of years, I go TJ Reid, because if you needed something in the last minute of a game, if your life depended on it, no matter what the skill, if it was a sideline, a free, if you need someone to catch a puck out, I'd say TJ Reid.
What's the ad on telly? When you need us, we're there. I can't think of it, but TJ is usually there. To be fair,
actually, he was brilliant the other day. Jeez, he was top class the other day. And honestly, you just have to enjoy watching him now, because he's not. You know, some of us have been watching now for nearly 20 years, and there'll be a day where we won't get to see him playing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So even the other day, it's funny. When you grow up, I grew up watching TJ Reid, like, and it's funny, playing against Limerick the other day, and obviously, like, I'm mad for Limerick to win, don't want Kilkenny to score, don't want, you know, but when TJ gets the ball, it's like you're a neutral. If you know what I mean? Watch in certain ways, because it's like you just get brought back to when your childhood on, you know what I mean? And you're just watching someone that's above, you just think of him above the rest. You know what I mean? If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I remember in 2017, I was playing Galway in a league semi-final. They bet as well. They won the league final against Tip that year, and Colin Ryan was on the subs with me, a good friend of mine, Limerick, and we were in the mix to come on in that game. And I had played the year before in the league, and that was Colin's first year in 17, and he just turned to me and he goes, "Geez, you know, we could play against Joe Penning here today." Do you know what I mean? I know, obviously, when you go on, like, that goes out of your head very quickly, but for a split second it is there. And the likes of TJ and Joe and these fellas, like, you know, they don't, like, these are generational players. They're not just ones even every 10 years. These are lads that are just, you know, you might see every 30, 40, 50 years. So they're very, very, very special players. And I hope TJ keeps going, and keep him inside the full forward. He'll keep going even longer.
I think just Cracky the Ash kind of hits the nail on the head. It is surreal seeing a Hall of Famer run around in a league match. Yeah, like, and you were saying about confidence there. Like, that man doesn't, like, you'd say, he maybe doesn't need a boost of confidence, but it's a lovely way for him to bookend the league as well. And no, like, after duking it out with some of the best players in the country here, and I might be 37, but I still have it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
He's something that he really is. He's just top class. I hope he keeps going. for another few years. He doesn't seem like a lad that's impacting him at all either. That's the funny thing. Like, he doesn't. The other day, I know some days, look, he mightn't do as much hurling as he done a couple of years ago all the time. But the other day, like, then, do you know what I mean? The touches, the vision, the calmness, the fella with that experience, like, you just can't buy his calmness on the ball. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like he's playing a club league game at times, like, even in the most pressurized situations. He just makes it look so easy. The easy pass to someone, you know, the decision making is it just comes from obviously so many years of doing it, whatever. And like I said, he's something else to watch.
I remember, it's funny you say that about TJ and even watching Canning in that day. Galan had a quote a couple of years ago, and I remember putting it up, and I put it up for purely what I thought was I thought was very interesting. He said about when Richie Hogan came on the All-Ireland final, he got the point. And he said he was nearly kind of thinking, Jesus, this is going to be it for Richie now, and Kilkenny are going to win the All-Ireland or whatever. And he was nearly like invested in him, because he would have been, I'm sure he would have probably been one of his favourite players growing up. I remember putting it up online, and boys were like, he's talking absolute raw-ish or whatever. There's no way that's what he was thinking. But there's a fair chance he probably was.
There's so many times in big games where you can't, you zone out for a split second. Do you know what I mean? And you have these little thoughts and stuff like that. And whether they're good or bad now, and you have to, you're not just going to go for 70 minutes. You have to actively pull yourself back in. Then when you have a thought like that, you obviously do just, get on with it, etc. And then, but yeah, I remember Richie Hogan got a goal against us in 2018, the quarter final, with a couple minutes to go, and I was on the line, and I remember just thinking, oh, this is pure Kilkenny again. I thought, they're going to rob us again. But thank God, I remember Tom Morrissey got it 2 points straight away after, and other fellas, Kyle caught a ball and stuff, and that just shows you're not different until you actually do it. Because other teams that year, like when that would have happened, that setback, that would have been it. Because we were winning the whole game, and it was John Donnelly ran through the centre and he gave a ball to Richie Hogan. Richie Hogan on the left bounced it low off the ground, and I think they went a point or two up with 2 minutes to go, and then we got the next 2 points to win by a point.
That was some game now. That's not talked about half enough. I know Quaid's flick against Cork in 18 is talked about a lot, and obviously the hand of Tom at the end of the 18 All-Ireland. But that was some game, and I thought Kilkenny would win that game beforehand, and I thought Jordan they'd win it as well. But it's the gas that you're saying this is typical Kilkenny. Ever since he got over that line that day, and even the semi-final line and the All-Ireland line, you've assumed that position now. People think that Limerick are going to do that now the whole time, and that they're never betting. They're going to hit a team with a sucker punch. It's funny how it can change over time.
Yeah, no, it is. That game was huge. There was a buzz in that game after, because it was a pretty young squad in the team, and there were just kind of lads going around the dressing room. We were all having a few cans in the dressing room, and there was just fellas turn. I remember a couple of fellas being overheard, like, we're going to Croke Park. Do you know what I mean? And it's mad to think that Limerick have been in Croke Park every year since. It really is like. And obviously Brian Cody came in, and even when you're going back to things as a youngster, growing up, and then Brian Cody walks into the dressing room, and then the whole place is just like you'd hear a drop of a pin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he spoke to us, and he spoke really well, and he said he said every other team heading up now is heading up for semi-finals to win the All-Ireland, basically. And if we won today, he said we were going up with one mission and one mission only, not going up for anything else to semi-final, only to win the All-Ireland. He said, and you should be thinking the exact same. He said, and those are moments that live with you for a long time, the likes of Brian Cody. And we hadn't beaten Kilkenny since 1973 in the championship.
Wow, okay.
That's it. So, and again, you hear them things after the match, and it's like, Jesus, that's mad. And then we hadn't won a semi-final in so long, and then you hadn't get over a final since 1973 as well. So, but they're nice little things to knock off, you know what I mean? Some people look at them as pressure. I think any day you go out and make history is a good day,
Yeah, 100%. Just quickly, Cracked Ashes comes in here again. It was very interesting during the Kilkenny match how for about 15 minutes of the second half, Limerick fought back to within 4 points, and the Kilkenny management started to panic and stall the game. Kylie and Connacht learned plenty there. They certainly did. That was a brilliant game. Tom spoke really well after that game, actually. It was about making our own history or whatever, and it kind of changed the narrative a small bit as well. And I remember, was it Richie McCarthy saying to me in an interview as well that, something I was going to come back to. Richie McCarthy said that there was some talk or meeting or something like that, and Richie said, hopefully we'll win at the weekend or something like that, or something kind of harmless, and Tom pulled him up straight away on it.
Yeah, I remember that. He did pull him up, and he pulled him up he didn't mince his words either when he pulled him up. I tell you, and Tom was only 22 probably at the time. Do you know what I mean? And Richie is a lad there that won an All-Star in 2013. Been there since probably 2011. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Tom, Tom is such a leader.
What were the rest of the people in the room doing? You almost be like
Cunis. Yeah, but you know what? He's right. And even when that happens in the dressing room, or in a meeting setting, even Richie McCarthy knows straight away. Do you know what? He's fucking right. Yeah, I shouldn't say it like that. Do you know? And them little nuggets, when you get a lad in a meeting to pull up another lad, they can really set the tone for a meeting. So you know what I mean, Ken, or
Yeah, well, I tell you something now, Pat. There's certain teams I've been involved in where that wouldn't happen, and it's not a good thing. Like when lads, like if I was calling you up about something in the dressing room now, I wouldn't be like, Pat's a bollocks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, you try and make a point through the right way, and that you'd understand it, and it would seep into everybody else. You don't want it to be a row necessarily, but you make a pertinent point that kind of hits home to everybody. But has that happened? Would that have happened much in your dressing room, even outside of that?
The way the management is there, if people aren't holding people to accountability, the management would be raging. So if someone isn't, like if someone isn't not just pulling up, it's never anyone for the sake of it ever. But if you don't have a group that is going to pull some fella up on something, be it now, it could be anything. It could be a drill of training, and the management might even hear this now. You could have a water break after the drill, and you could come in and some lad on the team could just tell, say to another fella, like, that was fucking shit. You know what I mean? And what it does then, it sets the tone for the whole group, or it could be after the warm up going out. Like every team is, you don't want players pulling up themselves before the management has to pull you up.
Yes.
About standards and maybe something like that. Now, this is going back, that's a good few years ago, because obviously like that group now would train to such a high standard, like most intercounty, teams would. But if you don't have that bit of accountability, you're really on the road to nowhere, because the only place you'll get pulled up then won't even be to your face. It'll be back at the bar.
Yeah.
A week after you lose a championship game, some fella will say then, sure, he was doing that wrong a month ago, like, you know what I mean? Or he was, but sure, why didn't you say it to him a month ago? Like, and really, if you're all going in the wrong direction, it doesn't matter, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been in loads of meetings like that, and I was pulled up personally in different things, and other players and different things, and it's all, when everyone's going in the right direction in it, and it comes from a good place, and everyone just wants to go to the same place, you have no problem with it. Do you know what I mean? And there's no room for any ego then, because a fella with an ego wouldn't cope in that environment.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So there's no fellas that have their heads up their hole really there, because if you do, you just get called out, and no one wants to be called out either. Like I remember meetings over the years, and you hear, you could be in a big meeting, and next thing you just hear someone talk, and you hear your name, and you're like, oh shit. Do you know what I mean? Because it's someone has a thing to maybe pull you up on, etc. So and it's a great way. You get incredibly high standards up from it,
Yeah. The other thing, just you were talking about earlier, and even your mind wandering during a big game, or I remember chatting to a psychologist before, and I think I was told not to be looking at the scoreboard, because you kind of, especially if it's going well or something like that, you can kind of get not to be looking at the time either, because sometimes could be wishing minutes away if you're hoping or longing for the end line. Did Caroline Curran have any triggers for you to get like the focus to get back in the game here and get back in the moment, right, like that?
No, I don't really. You see, it was more so we'd be fed information at halftime. There wasn't as much triggers or anything during the game, because obviously, like, the further you go, it's like teams would call, etc., and they say, we'll have this, you will say this word and we'll do this. By the time you get to Croke Park, you can't hear a thing. Like, your management might as well be above in the copper box. You can't hear a thing. It's irrelevant. But at halftime, there would be, KPIs that you have to, targets you want to have hit. And if you haven't hit them, well, then because it's basically streamlined for years. If we don't hit these targets, we're going to lose. So there's an urgency created straight away. And if you have hit them, if we don't hit them in the second half, we're not going to win. You know what I mean? We have to try and hit. It will obviously be broke down into 4 quarters sometimes. And I remember people used to report about us that, or report about Limerick that, quarter 3 was so strong, and they were putting teams away in quarter 3. But all we would hear for an awful long time is that quarter 2 was very weak. And we could get pulled up a training, we'll say, halfway through the first half of training, and saying, like, this is where we have fucking fell down now, like, this after minutes here, like, and this cannot continue, like, if this continues, another team is going to whack up 2 goals, 2 points, 2-3, 2-4, 1-5. If we continue to fall asleep in this vein, we can't just think that we're going to come into, we'll say, Q3 and it's just going to happen. Like, nothing ever just happens. If you know what I mean, you can't wait for anything to happen at that level. So I think it's more so just they keep things very, very simple in terms of maybe setting it like 3 goals for a game. That nothing's overcomplicated. There's no 10 different targets or anything like that. There's 3 or 4 goals. If we hit these, we win the game. And people wouldn't believe you how simple that is. Like, you know what I mean? It's taken the whole journey of winning a championship and trying to boil it down to, look, if we hit these 3 or 4 targets, we'll win the game.
It's
and none of them involve the scoreboarding. You know, in terms of none of them involve saying, if we score more, we hit these 3 or 4 targets, we win the game. And go after them 3 or 4 targets. And that's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about anything else as such. And when you can get a group of players to buy into that, it's, as you've seen the last couple of years, it can be quite powerful.
It's gas. You were saying there, about even up in Crow Park. I was chatting to Dermot Connolly yesterday, just as part of a media event, and I was asking about Stephen Cluxton and his enduring brilliance or whatever. And he said the best thing about Stephen Cluxton is his simplicity. He said people look at all these kickouts and they think there's 1,000,001 things going on. He says there's 1 or 2 dummy runs probably, and then there's a kick. And he said there's no 5 or 6 screens or any of this kind of stuff. It's not convoluted. It's so simple, because in the White Heat Championship, it has to be simple. It might look like it's very complicated, and I'm sure it's been ran thousands of times over and over, but it's the simplicity. And you're saying there, if you can't get a message in from management, players are driving the whole thing. So it has to be simple, and they have to be able to direct things on the pitch. So yeah, it's funny. Like, it is a lot of the best stuff is the simple stuff.
It is, and muscle memory. Like that's where the training comes from. Like it's like in a puck out scenario. If you're playing the half forward line or coming out from the full forward line, like again, this idea that we call this puck out and we call that puck out, it's completely irrelevant. And I've seen managers over the years and Limerick managers where they tell a goalkeeper, okay, go right, go over here, you know what I mean? Put your hurley up to go right. But sure, what if the run isn't, you know what I mean? Some fella's outside and he sees space. Like you watch Tom Morrissey, for example, if you're at the Gaelic grounds or in Thurles and you're at the back of the stand, and just watch himself and Grow at Hegarty's movement. You know what I mean? They're not giving a signal down to Nicky Quaid to say, I'm going to be here. It's all I'm here. And that just comes in from years and months of practice. Of going through puck out scenarios of training where it's half an hour, and that can be the boring stuff. That's the stuff where you're not. That stuff can be the hard stuff. It's easy to just turn up and play a game or to do train. The session where it takes maybe 40 minutes to run through scenarios over and over and over again, where is if Garrod pushes 10 yards in front where he knows the ball is going to land, so that way then Tom can come out and be on the breaking ball and behind straight away. You're onto that's a puck out one straight away. And again, it might only be when I was out in New York for a summer. 2 summers ago, we were at training one night, and I wasn't there long at this stage, and we lost our first round. And one of the lads involved says to me, she says, "Hey lads, come on, you were involved at Limerick here. You must have a few puck outs we could do here." Do you know what I mean? And I was like, well, there ain't many. I said, do you know what I mean? But just if we do 1 tonight or 2 tonight, you know what I mean? Because they're nearly expecting you to say we'll go through a catalogue here of different things. Like, but sure, if you can master a few, if you can master 2 or 3, you're going down the right road, And some teams are gone very good at that. Like if you look at Cork, like it's so funny. Cork are conditioned now almost to where you're talking about looking up at the scoreboard. Gareth Fitzgibbon doesn't know if a ball goes over the bar or not when you're playing against him. Do you know what I mean? If he sees a Limerick fella having a shot, he's gone. He doesn't. It's nothing to him. I'm not talking about now when he's trying to get a hook or block. I'm saying if Keane Lynch is 20 yards away from him and he's about to strike the ball, Gareth Fitzgibbon is moving for a puck up.
It was Kyle Hayes' point last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, wasn't it? And he ran to the other end of the pitch. The keeper or the referee didn't blow the whistle. Collins was allowed to puck the ball out, and Fitzgibbon picked up the ball in an ocean down the Cusack stand side.
And you can be sure the Clare management made a point of getting that out before the All-Ireland final. They made a point of saying it to the referee, I'd imagine, because it changed in the All-Ireland. And they probably made a point of saying it in some sort of way to the media as well. Because first of all,
it definitely was sent to the media. I can.
You can't actually defend that, and it is probably a slight advantage. It isn't an unfair advantage as such if the puck out has gone straight away, maybe as a wing back has just scored.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that's just teams will try any edge they can get like that. And Gareth Fitzgibbon got 4 or 5 points in that game. They won by 2. So the margins are so small. Like he got at least 2 points from them puck outs, and he's probably not the only one. Maybe they got a load of points in them puck outs today blown in Parky Queeve when we played them. So yeah, it's you know what I mean. It's amazing like that. Teams will get small little advantages here and there, and the small, as the great Paddy O'Shea said, the grain of rice tip to scale. Like one little puck out like that, you can win a game by a point. Now obviously I know there's loads, fucking 60 score intensity in the game. They all are equal, but it's amazing when some teams can just get a little advantage like that.
Yeah, you mentioned Cork there. What is it? Probably it's a de facto like league semi-final against Galway at the weekend. How important is it for Cork to get to a league final? How important is it for them to get a bit of silverware? What have you made? What have you made of them so far? Decent bit of interchange, and like we saw Dermot Healy that night against Kilkenny. We probably haven't seen much, didn't see much of him before, or much after. What have you made of them? How do you think they're motoring so far?
I think, do you know what? Because I know I've made my feelings, you know, all this. Like, I'm kind of in the minority in it. I place more importance on the league than other fellas do, but I think they definitely need to win. Not, need is a strong word, but I think they really want to win a league, and I think it'd be great for them to win a league because obviously they haven't won a league since '98. So you've
and they won the All Ireland the year after too. Like they mightn't have won the championship that year, but I don't think that's a coincidence either. Like, do you know what I mean? A young team win the league in '98, then all of a sudden having the confidence go win All Ireland out of nowhere, kind of nearly the year after.
Yeah, well, sure. The last two teams that have won the league have won the All Ireland.
Yeah,
and even that year, so it definitely doesn't do you any harm. Like Kilkenny done it so many times as well under Brian Cody. Like, but I think personally, Pat Ryan is going into year 3, right? Now I think he's a fantastic manager. I'm not saying he's under pressure or anything, but I'm sure he feels a small bit of pressure himself. The fact that he has such a good squad. Like Huggy came out the other day and said it's the best squad he's been a part of in 18 years. Do you know what I mean? So that de facto actually makes you say, if you don't pick up silverware, well, something's wrong somewhere. Something's wrong somewhere straight away. He's going into year 3 now. I know that if we just say for argument's sake, if they didn't get out of Munster, it'd be regardless, irrelevant if they won the league, right? Fair enough. But if they don't win the All Ireland, and at least you won a national title, it's still progress. Once they have a good championship. So I do think out of all the 3 left, they could probably do it the most. I think Tip are somewhat similar as well. Do you know that like neither player on the Tip or Cork panel has a league medal? You know what I mean? I think they'd all love to have a league medal. A few of the Galway boys would have one, and a few would have 2, but I wouldn't really count the one in 2021 because they shared it between Kilkenny and Galway.
Yeah. What's Tip's last league title? 08, is it?
2008. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a long time ago now. For both counties, like for Tip and Cork, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a national title, like, do you know what I mean? It's the only other national title you can win. So I think Cork would be absolutely bulling for it. I think it's set up for nicely now. The Galway at home won't be an easy game either, but I think they'd be delighted to have it at home. I'd imagine, I don't know what you probably know more than me in this now. Would themselves and Tip toss for home and away if it was a Cork and Tip final? I'd imagine they'd toss.
My understanding is that Páirc Uí Chaoimh have looked for both league finals, 1A and 1B. But the talk is that they're going to be both in Croke Park. And obviously, if Cork are in one of them, it's hardly going to be Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But the talk is that 1A and 1B will both be in Croke Park the same day.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because the last league final that was in Croke Park was our first league final, like say in 2019.
Waterford, yeah.
Yeah. Glenn got that great goal. Remember the one that's flick into net? He's
a good man. He's a good man to get a goal like that in the league final. Actually, they flicked that day, and then he got the one where Flanagan put it on a plate, and he knocked it into our Wrigley Field.
Yeah. That was a great game, and we had some crack after that. To be honest about enjoying the league, we had a great night out after that, and a great day out the following day as well. But no, I think Cork, they do have a serious panel. Like they were, I don't know about you now. I didn't see that coming against Clare last week.
No,
like to hammer Clare like that. Geez, they were devastating. I know Clare won't be too happy, and if you're Clare as well, you'll give them a bit of leeway because they're current All Ireland champions. But the one worry I'd have is that from number 1 to 9, that was the Clare team from 1 to 9, bar Diarmaid Ryan. Like that wasn't the load of inexperienced fellas getting the league game. Like that was the 1 to 9 that played in the All Ireland basically, bar Diarmaid Ryan. And Darragh Lohan was the one in for him, and he's basically their 7th back.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. So it'd be a small worry in there, but Jesus, Cork were awesome. Fucking, if you give a team like that balls to the full forward line like that, my favourite ball to the full forward line is Tim O'Mahony's one where he gave to Brian Hayes' goal. Remember, Brian Hayes went around Conor Cleary. Now I know Conor Cleary was his first game back, but the most dangerous ball and the hardest ball to defend, I think, for a cornerback is that ball from about 45, 50 yards in. You know what I mean? Like Tim O'Mahony could have put it over the bar. And Darragh skipping one as well. Where them balls where you could score a point, but you decide to give that 30-yard pass in.
As a back, oh my God, you'd be so happy when he puts it over. You'd be absolutely delighted because chances are he has 5 or 10 yards on you already because you're so close to goal. I hated playing teams where they gave that ball in. You couldn't defend it like.
Yeah, exactly. And because and cornerbacks love a ball coming from the opposite. or from the 5 or 7 position sitting really deep. Because even the corner forwards up in front of you, they usually have to slow down for a split second as such to take control, and then as the way most cornerbacks are trained now, it's come out and spiral the ball, just come out and break the ball, and then you pick up the break with the momentum from behind. But you can't really do that with that kind of ball coming from the middle third and even further up. You can't do that with that, you know. And one team, I know it's a club team, Ballygunner are lethal at that ball. You know, the amount of balls, where the amount of goals that they get, where 95% of other teams, the wing forward or midfielder, would tap the ball over there. But they just tap it, that dink ball. And Derek McGrath was fierce onto us about that last year. That dink ball that you give in instead of taking a pint. And then you can follow it up yourself, you might get the 1-2. You know, it's incredibly dangerous. So if Cork keep hurling like that, geez, no, they'll take fear stopping. Your man Healy was incredibly impressive against Cork. I was at the Cork and Tip game in Thurles. He came on. I hadn't known much about him at that sense, and he got a great point that night, and he gave a great crossfield ball into Hoggy as well. And I was like, geez, this fella looks good, but couldn't get over him against Kilkenny. Like he looked like, I remember Connorly Hands. Do you remember Connorly Hands made his debut blowing Parky Ring in the league? He got 7 points in play against Kilkenny, like back in maybe 2011, 2012. He was ring forward. He was very like that. It was like, geez, this fella is just going to burn through everyone. Like, you know what I mean? And he actually has it. He looks a bit like a mix between Harnedy and Nahan, because he seems to be quite good to win ball as well in the air. So Jesus, adding him into that 6 forwards, you could go through 12 forwards for Cork here, and you'll probably be leaving out number 13 and 14 that wouldn't be too happy if they were left out. Do you know what I mean? Their training games must be very good below at the moment.
It's funny, I can remember that game with Lahan. I think he was on JJ for a decent chunk of it. I could be wrong. I think he was. But my abiding memory is he'd gotten 4 or 5, and I just remember Mick Fenley hitting him a sog. He gave him a right sog and was like, you know, you're kind of running around here, you know, popping over scores for fun or whatever. This is what it'll really be like.
He was class, and he had just that night. I remember he was slighter and everything. I remember watching it and telling you, he was really, really good. And he had the chain was coming out through his jersey every time he was getting a pint. I mean, he'd be so real fast, and the chain was coming out. And he gave some exhibition that night. He's been a class player. I know he got injured. He came on against Limerick and got injured, was it? Or was it a different game?
Him and Pádraig Power hurt themselves the same night, I think they both did shoulder injuries the same night, and Power ended up doing the cruciate, which was a disaster for him, obviously, after showing up so well in the first game.
So look, but that's the thing, they can definitely go. Like, you're talking about teams, I always say, I think I said this to you before, the team with the best panel a lot of the time would win the league. And like Cork have a serious panel, they could do a lot. Like Kilkenny the other day, like I know maybe this is contradicting myself because they were missing 4 or 5 starters, but Kilkenny seem to have a very good maybe 16, 17 players. And maybe I'm wrong here now and stuff like that, but even if me and you were to go through like the best newcomer for Kilkenny, like there's no newcomer has come through this year, bar Fionn Mackesy, like, you know what I mean? Jordan Malone, or Guy Malone midfield is playing really well. He was there last year, such I know their first and second years they knew, but they're not bringing through. You know what I mean? There doesn't seem to be. They will be strong, but they won't be very strong from numbers 17 to 23, which is so important now in round robin. Now, look, maybe they'll bring on lads and fellas will announce themselves in the scene in round robin and not the league, but I think that's where a team like Kilkenny could fall down. Yeah,
just fly through a couple of quick comments here. I'm not going to read out this man's name because just read his name in your head, Pat. Don't read it out loud. He just says, do Cork have a gunner coach in their back room? Donal O'Rourke, Duck O'Rourke is from Watford. Don't think he's from Ballygunner though. He's been involved with Dixborough the last couple of years, obviously involved with Cork. This is his 3rd year involved with Cork. Liam O'Neill just says would be huge for Cork to win the league. Yeah, I 100% go along with that. I just think, as you said there, you had a great night and day out after the league. I think stuff like that is important. And I think none of these Cork lads have really won anything together. Like this squad all together, they've won different things, Munsters and under 20 All Irelands and stuff like that. I think
it's 7 years since they won a Munster, even, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
big change in personnel in 7 years.
Yeah, 100%. This one's for you, Pat. Detox 101 just says, who does Pat think is Limerick's most consistent player in Kylie's reign? Doesn't have to be the best player. Dan Morrissey is his selection. What do you reckon, Pat?
Special word for Dan, obviously, and probably Tom as well, and Nicky. But I probably have to say Kyle Hayes. You know, he has the most All Stars. We'll say. I know that's not the be on end all either, but. And even in the 18, he didn't win one. You know what I mean? And he was unreal. He won young hurler. He's one in backs and forwards. He's every championship game that John Kiley's had, he started every game bar one that he was injured for in 2022. I think you know what I mean. So he probably he's most, you know. So I'd probably say Kyle. I'd probably go Kyle.
Yeah, the reason I'd have Dan very high up there is obviously the flexibility between 3 and 7. But Hayes, like 6, 7, 14, 11. Do you know what I mean? Like it's actually not right that a fella can do that so seamlessly and is as
he probably finish up. He probably finish up at fullback. I was joking before. He finish up like Kieran Carey. He go back fullback, minding the house in a couple of years.
I can see him plowing out a ball. Imagine him coming out with ball. Question there. Just we were talking about Clare. Ken Burke says, where do you think Clare are? Hard to know with the inconsistency and poor performances. I'd have a worry about that now. I definitely would have a worry about that. I'd have a big worry about their Ennis performances in particular as well. Whatever about being defeated on the road, like that was humiliating the last day against Cork, and they'll get a reaction like they got a reaction from the Wexford game. But reactions are not really what you're looking for. Like you're looking for a consistency. That's why I don't know. To be a bit of worry. I'm not from Clare, obviously, but to be a bit of worry sleeping in that this season could get away from them like 2014 if they're not careful.
It's and you know what? I know. Look, you don't want to be too reactionary, but when it's amazing after a bad performance like that, you start to look through their team, and they can start to look very old all of a sudden. Yeah. You know, even when obviously 6 months ago they're the best team in the country and they don't look that old, but like Conor Cleary is 31 this year. You know, Conlon is probably 35, 36. You know, Cathal Malone, even Tony Kelly now is 32 this year. Dave McInerney is 32 this year. Peter Duggan is 32. Dave Fitzgerald is 30. Shannon Allen is gone. He'll be 32 next year when he comes back. Do you know what I mean? So you do start to get you do start to think then, Jesus, I wonder are they, you know, they're going to have to bring through a good few players that they've had good underage players the last few years. But I'd be a bit worried as well in such that obviously, like I said, it was still their first team basically, a lot of it. Yeah. That got that hammer, and it wasn't a load of league players. Even, and I know I mentioned this to you before, look at the fixture calendar. Like they have to play Cork again in the first round in Innis, right? After the last day, which is tough. Cork will be using that in video analysis for the next 4 weeks, saying this is what we have to do. If we do this, this is what happens here, we win. And obviously Clare, sometimes they look back at the video analysis as well, and you're thinking, you know, now look, it's all result dependent. If we don't know which one will work who for better in terms of Clare having to see what the mistakes can lead to or not. But even that, would just like it's hard to see them beating Cork now in the first round after what happened last day. So if they were to lose that, which is Cork will rightly so be favourites for the first round, you're away to Waterford the following week, and Waterford had no game the first week. So you're playing a team like Waterford, they're definitely most dangerous in the first game, I think. You know, they beat Cork last year in the first game. Clare could be coming down with a loss. You know, down there. Yeah. I definitely, the last time I was talking to you was before Shannon Donnell has gone and stuff now in a few of these league games. I said to you that Clare would probably come through Munster again, but Jesus, my thoughts have changed in terms of confidence in it anyway. Looking at that first two fixtures, looking at how the league has went, I definitely wouldn't be putting money on them now to get to Munster final. Yeah, well, I think most people are saying that it'll be Limerick or Cork as the top two now, and there's some battle on for 3. Now, it's far from guaranteed that they'll be the top 2, and you have to remember that Limerick I think Limerick are still top of the table when it comes to overall results throughout the round robin. I'm fairly sure they are. I think they're marginally ahead of Limerick. Clare? Yeah, Clare are. Sorry, yeah. Clare are marginally ahead since the round robin came in 18. It was played in 18, 19, 22, 23, 24. The aggregate over those years, I still think they're at the top. Like, so they are proven. And the thing about Cork, it's funny. Cork will be favourites going into that game. Clare have beaten Cork in how many championship games in a row now? Well, sure, both games last year in championship, which is a great sign for Clare with that game coming, is in both games, Cork got a 7-point lead in the round robin game and the All-Ireland. And if you were a Clare person, you could say we still bet. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So obviously, like, they won't fear them to a certain degree, but I don't know. Looking back, Clare have been very good for the last couple of years. They've been very consistent, but you know, looking forward is a different question now. I think it just they're behind the 8 ball anyway at the moment, and it's going to take that first game to be massive because Waterford will have a big performance below the first game. You know, they're kind of building nicely, as you said there recently. Getting lads back at the right time, maybe, you know, they'll come into a league final now as well. They'll be promoted. They'll have, that'll be kind of a job well done for management.
I think they're fair dangerous, Pat. I honestly think they're so dangerous. They're going to have all their best players on the pitch, barring injuries over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the thing about Waterford is that I don't mean this as an insult. Again, looking back, coming before, so you know what, they haven't been a great team, right, the last couple of years, because they haven't got out of Munster and they performed poorly as a team. But even though they're not a great team the last 2 years, they have brilliant hurlers, as mad as that may sound, because it might, you know what I mean? They have unreal hurlers. Like there's some hurlers now that can just light it up. But obviously, it's consistency might be their problem. But if they could beat All Ireland champions in the first round below, and then they have Limerick coming the following week, they'd rather play Limerick at home anyway than they would go up to Limerick, just going on past results.
Yeah.
So it's you definitely, if we had 50 people here, we could get a load of different permutations for all the games. We don't know what will happen, but there's going to be some upsets along the way anyway.
Oh, it definitely will, and it'll be 1 week. The prediction that you made at the start will look like it's way off, and the next week it could be a bit closer to reality. By the fourth week, it could be actually what you predicted, or it could be the complete opposite. It's great.
Because even if we're predicting for Waterford to be better, than like everyone is saying, like, geez, Waterford were very poor the last 2 years, they can get out. Even when they were very poor the last 2 years, they bet Cork last year at home, right? Nearly bet Clare away. And the year before, even again, they were bad the last first 3 games. All Tip needed to do, Tip were like 1-10 in that game, was beat Waterford and Waterford turned up and bet them. So even when they're not playing well throughout the championship, they're still upsetting somebody. They're almost guaranteed to upset one of these teams that think, oh, sure, look, we might beat Waterford. And then obviously, if they can just build on one of those games, like they were very, very, very close last year. They should have beaten Tiplow as well last year from a Waterford point of view. They were 4 points up with probably 69 minutes gone. Do you know what I mean? And a point up against Clare. So they're not that far away, obviously. And it's I think they'll have a fierce confidence now of beating Clare below in their first round, which will be Clare's second round. Just
quickly, Pat, on Tip, like the league couldn't have gone much better for them from the point of view of they took a nice little, not a nice beating against Limerick, but they were made aware of, that's not a complete package or far from it at the minute. And I think that's brilliant when you react the way that they did. And they got 2 good results since they beat Cork in the league, beat Kilkenny in the league, beat Galway in the league. One more win along the way there as well that I'm forgetting. But like it's been a good league. A lot of new, Wexford as well. Yeah, lot of new faces. Sam O'Farrell has kind of made a name for himself. Darren McCarthy is only a young fella. His free taking is on Erin. A lot of new. Dylan Walsh be another one as well.
Like they'll be playing under 20 now next Tuesday, won't it?
Yeah, going to be a busy time for a few of them now. And no more than Offaly are in a similar boat now, where there's going to be a lot of games going through lads' legs.
I'd imagine some of them will be left off on Saturday against Clare, but to be honest, they mightn't be, because Liam Cahill doesn't seem like, going back watching him as a team from last year. He doesn't seem like a fella to
Well, Gerard O'Connor played nearly every minute last year from what I could see, and he was playing Fitzgibbon 2 days later most of the time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because they made a fierce point, and I saw an interview with him start the year. He said, we will know our team at the end of the league this year. And I think he does know that, like in terms of at least 12 positions. And they're already in a league final, so they can as such give extra lads game time this Saturday against Clare if they choose to. Like I'd be surprised if he played maybe the same 11 or 12 as he's always played Saturday again. The fact that they're already in a league final.
Yeah.
But look, I think a league final will be massive for them as well. He's the same. He's going into year 3 now, and he'd love a bit of silverware. Just I think to kind of shore things up and kind of get a bit of confidence from the players even as such. Like I said to you a while ago, when you're not winning, the management could be telling you the right things, but you know what I mean. You need results. Like results are the currency here. Like, and it's themselves. And I think it will be a Tip and Cork final, and I think it'll be a brilliant final. Maybe Galway will upset Cork the weekend and get through, and it'll be some league for Galway if the team that they were hammered by. In the first round, that can beat him in the league final. That would be incredible, and to be some testament to Micheál O'Donoghue, because I don't know him that well now, but I don't know him at all really. But he's obviously a very good manager. When you hear Galway people speak about him, they have so much respect for him. And I talked about Brian Cody a while ago. The best speech I ever listened to in a dressing room after a game was 2018 All Ireland when he came in. He spoke so well. So I think they're very happy to have him back, and I think it's a great league campaign considering where they were after the first game. Do you know? I know they lost to Limerick. Yeah. Funny enough, Limerick were brilliant that night against Galway. I came away being somewhat impressed that Galway didn't lose by more, just because Limerick were firing on all cylinders, and Galway are they have a lot of good players. You know, similar to Waterford. They're just trying to get consistency from somewhere. That's other teams. There's a lot of good teams here, and you see in the league, teams are beating teams every single week. But it's just which team now will bring that consistency to championship. And either way, it's going to be a fascinating league final. I throw my neck in the line. I'd say Cork will win the league. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think what's great about the Cork Galway game at the weekend is that they can go hammer and tongs and know that they're not going to play each other again a couple of weeks later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what Tip and Cork. I know it's only the second round, but they're not meeting in the first round.
Yeah.
So I think that's good as well, because Tip have a tough start too. Like they have Limerick coming, and then they're away to Cork, which are right. I think you look at the bookies, the top two rated teams in the country at the moment are Cork and Limerick, which I think most people would agree with. And Tip have them in the first two games. So tough deal for Tip, but they're playing so well that you wouldn't doubt them getting out at this stage, even if they lost the first two games.
Oh yeah,
if they lose the first two games, they definitely have enough to get out of Munster, like Cork did when they lost the first two games last year.
It's the nature of the defeats. Do you know what I mean? It's if they're beaten like they were beaten by Limerick last year in the first round, you're kind of thinking, geez, they're not going to recover from this. But if it's a narrow defeat and they put everything on the line, you're thinking, geez, they might be still in a good spot. Quickly, something you said there, what did Donoghue say in the dressing room kind of took you aback? Or that's obviously probably one of your greatest days in hurling anyway. So yeah. Maybe
that's why. Maybe we were just high as a kite anyway. Look, I won't go into all the detail. One thing that stuck with me is in terms of what he said was, and when you'd won stuff underage, and then he actually set the tone for the next couple of years in terms of how much we enjoyed it. He basically said that, look, what will happen now after today, he said, is people will already start to prepare and talk about next year and different things. And he said, one regret slightly I have of last year, he said, of when we won the Ireland this time 12 months ago, we didn't enjoy it as much as we could, maybe. Myself, this is what his view in terms of that. He's manager, so it's probably a bit different. He was looking forward already. He said, from now to Christmas, he said, just sit back and enjoy it all the time. And I think he kind of set the tone for us in that. And when we were looking to win stuff afterwards, we always made such a conscious effort to enjoy every win, because you hear some people talking about wins. I wish I enjoyed it more when I was younger. You know what I mean? In different sports, even you hear people, in the soccer terms, even like the fellows at United, and sometimes the overlap, they'd say, I wish I enjoyed it a bit more. Like, I can honestly say that I nearly speak for everyone. Most fellas on the Limerick panel and myself, and really only speak for myself, I enjoyed every single win we ever had to the absolute maximum. You know what I mean? If it was a lemon, I squeezed every bit out that we could, because, there was always this feel coming from a county that hadn't won for so long that, you just don't know when it could be your last. Never wanted to be your last, but I think I don't know who set the tone for us in that sense. She was like, just enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Don't be thinking about 2 in a row. Don't be thinking about next year's. And that'll all come the 1st of January when you're back. So, like I said, and when you hear past Galway players and now speak about him, they were so happy. Joe Hanning on the Sunday game when, I don't know who was coming back. Like Joe Hanning was nearly fit to go back himself, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because obviously he got him over the line, but he does seem like a very, very good manager.
I'd have a hell of a lot of faith that they'll be really consistent over. I think he's 4 years. He could do more. I think they'll be right there. I think they'll do well this year. We could get to an All-Ireland semi-final. Not winning Leinster since 2018 is a bit of a joke. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, really, like for the when they won the back-to-back Leinsters in that. Remember the game was played down in Thurles against Kilkenny, the Leinster final replay. You're thinking, they're definitely going to win. This group is going to win another couple of these, and they have, as a county, they haven't won any of the 6 that have followed, which is mad when you think about it.
Yeah, but they had 2 replays that year, sure, and the second one in Thurles. The Galway or the Clare as well.
That's right, yeah. That's right. Yeah. You boys were kicking their feet up. They're getting ready to go for the final.
Oh no, sorry. Well, did that go to replay? It did go to replay.
Yeah. In Thurles as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because it went to replay after extra time. Because we had our feet kicked up. We played on the Saturday against Cork, and both semi-finals went to extra time. But theirs was a draw after extra time. Yeah.
Best weekend, probably the best weekend of hurling ever, nearly as regards.
Who are you telling?
There's 2 games on, and the 2 of them are unreal. Both went to extra time, and it was probably not a surprise, but you probably weren't tipped to win that first game. Pat, I'll just leave you go on this. What young hurlers have impressed you, would say, throughout the league? Maybe names that we wouldn't have known particularly well. Any sort of lads that have really stand out? Just even fly through the Munster counties really quickly. Maybe 1 or 2 from each, or who stood out most?
Players that are not as aware of, probably, in terms of Waterford. No, he didn't play. I watched their game against Dublin. He didn't play that day. Seamus Fitzgerald, Paul Fitzgerald's younger brother.
Yeah.
I watched one of their games on Club, or even in the pre-season game. I know he started the first 2 games. Looks like a really good cornerback. Seems pretty. He could be under 20 even as well. He's quite light, but I know his younger brother. He's been very good. He looked to me like a fella now that who come on and grab a cornerback jersey for Waterford. Might not be this year. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what age that, obviously Healy and Cork, but I think the wing-back Cormac O'Brien from Newtown. Don't know what age he is now. If he's a young lad, if he's very
older, he's a bit older. Yeah, Mullins would be 21, 22, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're Mullins and O'Brien. I think Cork are crying out for one of them, at least one of them, to be wing-back. Personally, I think there's a spot there for them. I think to allow a fellow like Mark Coleman to be coming on midfield, even, you know what I mean, more so than in the back. So that's just a personal thing. I think he offers more probably going forward than he does maybe as a defender. Do you know what I mean? Trying to stop a really, really good player. But your man Cormac O'Brien seems like a real old style defender. Who else then as such? Aidan O'Connor for Limerick, I think, has been not just Limerick's probably best young player. I think he's probably been Limerick's best player throughout the league. I think he has his hands on a starting jersey as it stands at the moment. I think he's been phenomenal. He's scoring every day off left and right. He looks really fit, really fast. He looks like if he gets half a chance, it's just going over and that's it. When he came on against Clare, his first point that he came on was good. He was only on the field about 10 seconds, and he got popped the hand pass from David Reedy, and the bang, it was just over the bar from the halfway line, you know. So, and he got man of the match last night as well against Galway. Munster, obviously, just you went through some of the lads with tip. Some obviously Darren McCarthy's a pretty clear. Even Craig Morgan, I know he's not a young player, but he's in a new position.
Yeah,
he playing really well. Obviously, Mossy, Keoghan, Kilkenny. I said to you already, I don't think Kilkenny have any young hurlers coming through. That's the thing, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a worry now. And we had Nicky Brennan on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
that is a worry. Like, there hasn't been a superstar in a while. Like,
just don't. Mossy Keoghan has probably heard of the league. As mad as it sounds, Wexford are relegated a while. Conor Hearn midfield in a few games I watched for Wexford was without a doubt one of the players of the league. Got a great goal blow against Waterford when they played him. I watched the full match against Kilkenny as well. He was in a sinking ship. When that is playing well and your team is getting bait,
oh yeah,
it's worth your stock goes up twice as much. And he did a brilliant game that night.
Yeah.
And he hasn't played that much for Wexford, which I find strange. Like he's cemented in it. He's probably the first time on the team this year. But again, he's not that young, but he hasn't played that much, and I think he'll be a massive player for him this year. So, yeah, I think that's kind of it really in terms of, is there anyone else that you think I'm leaving out? Probably man Anthony Burns from Galway obviously had 1 or 2 standout games.
Yeah, he's a newcomer. He's not particularly young. I think he's mid-ish 20s, and the other side maybe 26, 27. He's more of a soccer player. And just from an Offaly point of view, there is a few Offaly fellas definitely. Donald Shirley looks like he's going to be centre back for Offaly for the next 10 years. The way things are going. Dan Burke has been good. Kyle King has been good as well. But they're probably, most of them are around the scene kind of last year. So that's an actual newcomer. Probably not in Offaly. Dylan Walsh is a lad I like in tip though, and he's a real eye for goal. Took
that goal really well against Cork.
Yeah,
you know, some people look at that. Some people look at that and say, "What do you mean he took that well? Like that was he was left inside his own." But when you know that ball, like Craig Morgan bust through the middle, and everybody knows what's going to happen here, right? And so the thing slows down. But as time, you'll see forwards even sometimes they'll miss a shot as a point when they're on their own. Dylan Walsh knew a couple of seconds in advance, which can be a harmful thing. This ball is coming here. I have to catch this ball. You can overthink it. You know what I mean? Sometimes sometimes they can be the hard ones. Whereas when something happens faster and instinctively, you just do it without thinking. I thought that was a great finish. Even the goalkeeper came out in the right thing, and he just dinked it low in along the ground. He didn't sky it. He didn't hit. Even if that went into the top of the net, you'd say, "Geez, that could have easily." No, he just bounced that in along the ground. And obviously his goal against Galway was very good as well, so I'm very impressed with him as well. Will he start? If he doesn't start, he's guaranteed to see game time.
Yeah. Sam O'Farrell is probably the young player in the league that's really kind of impressed me. I saw him in the minor final a couple of years ago against Offaly. He was captain, I think, the same day, and was really, really good. And I didn't think he was a scorer per se, but he's popping up everywhere, and he's a great engine as well. Liam White comes in there with a good one, yeah. James Matton has had a huge influence at cornerback this season so far, yeah. James Matton wasn't starting for Kilcormac in 2023, and now he's starting for an Offaly in 2025. Now, to be fair, he was full back on the B team that also won the Senior B Championship. So it's not that he was first sub on the best team in the county. So he can't really have any qualms with that. Once he's gotten his chance, he's taken it on the back of a good Fitzgibbon campaign in Limerick as well. But Pat, you've been super with your time. I appreciate that, and we'll chat to you. We'll chat to you maybe after 1 or 2 rounds in Munster, and we'll see how our predictions are going. All right?
Yeah, no bother me.
Come on, talk to you soon, Digger Andy. Good luck. Just fly through a couple of quick other comments here. Positive vibes about tips so far from Porter. Yeah, well, it's hard enough not to be positive. Things have been going well so far as well. Mike has a commenting here. If lads do fancy Cork, then I think a good angle with the bookies is Rob Downey, Player of the Year, 36-1. I think we're obviously sponsored by Lottoland, who offer those odds as well. And the 2 players that I looked at if Cork win the All Ireland for Hurler of the Year were Downey and Kieran Joyce. I think Robert Downey is getting so hard for teams to break him down and get around him, and he's just I didn't think he'd slip into centre back there as easy as he has, and it's been seamless. It's been an accident almost, but it's been absolutely seamless. Just going to bring in Adam Minetton for a bit of football talk. Adam, how are you going?
Good, Verney. How are you keeping?
I'm good. I don't know about you, but I just feel so much more positive talking about football every weekend.
100%. Jeez, it's so enjoyable. Now, I would say that after what Kerry did the other night, too, that was really enjoyable from our point of view. But look, if we're compared to the last few years, we're talking about football. We're not talking about we're not trying to avoid talking about football. It's actually enjoyable again. So I'm loving it so far, definitely. Yeah.
Just on the couple of little rule changes since we were talking last, I think they've squeezed it up and tightened it up even a bit better now. I didn't particularly like the hooter thing and the game being over once the hooter went off. Did you see that crack in Mayo the other day where they had a goal chance, butchered it? Derry went down the pitch and we're going to have a goal chance themselves, butchered it. It was still in play, and Mayo got a goal before half time and changed the game completely. I think that's a great thing. You might just fly through a couple of the other little kind of changes as well. I think they've really tightened it up and it makes it better again.
Yeah, the hooter one is definitely better. I think people's resistance to it was that maybe it's a bit like rugby because you have situations where teams might just be kicking the ball over the sideline, but certainly in terms of it's definitely better than giving the teams the opportunity to get a final score and to keep the game alive that bit longer. It's definitely, I think, a fairer way to finish a game. I was at the game in Tralee between Kerry and Armagh, and there was pandemonium at the end of that game as well because there was about 2,000 kids around the side of the pitch waiting to come on and trying to get their autographs and that kind of stuff. And the announcer inside the ground, he tried at least 2 times, if not 3 times, to say the game is not over when the hooter sounds. Beware, like the game's not over. The referee has to blow the whistle, the ball's going to play. And I was like, that's not going to work. Like those kids aren't listening to him. So the hooter went off. Tony Brosnan had the ball over by the sideline. Next thing there was 2,000 kids on the pitch, and the game was still on. So I think the linesman told Tony to boot the ball over the sideline, and he did. So, but no, that's definitely improvement. I think the goalkeeper one as well. Look, we've gone on about this a good bit, but just making it so that you have to have 4 players at all times in your own half, and doesn't have to be the goalkeeper. You can send like Niall Morgan forward, which he did the last day, as long as you keep another player back. So you're not creating the 12v11 advantage like you were before. I think those are really good ways of just tidying it up. The goalkeeper one as well with the kickouts, they're after scrapping the 20 seconds thing, which I thought as well that was messy and it wasn't being timed properly. So they're better off just going back to the old way. So I think, look, again, every week there's some people giving out about it, there's some managers giving out about it, but I think overwhelmingly, it's been a success so far. And I think we won't get the full effect of it until maybe the season's over and we can kind of look back and say, okay, this happened and it affects stats this way and affects scoring this way. But so far, I don't really get how anyone could be down about it.
You mentioned Tony Brosnan there. He played county on Saturday, club on Sunday, by all accounts.
Yeah, so I think basically every Kerry player who didn't start on Saturday evening was released to play County League, which is great to see, because obviously
Yeah.
half of them didn't get any minutes, and some of them might only got, like Killian Spillane might have got 5 minutes at the end of the game. He played the full game for Temple on Sunday, so that's common sense. There's no point keeping these fellas wrapped up behind closed doors and not playing competitive football. It stands to Kerry. Obviously, it's good for the clubs, it's good for the players. So yeah, fair play to Jack O'Connor. I'm not sure what the situation's like across the country. Maybe some other places do it and some don't, but I'd be all in favour of that anyway.
What do you think of if you are one of the players on the pitch where you're one of the 4 back now when your goalkeeper goes up? It's a bit of an indictment, but listen, it's a team game, so I'm sure lads are taking it and saying, oh, Beggin's better on the ball or better going forward or more of a threat, or Morgan is as well. But you'd want to be, you wouldn't want to be low on confidence anyway.
Well, I tell you what, I know, you're talking about backs predominantly. I know maybe the forwards might have more of an ego about it if they were told to go back, but at the same time, they're talking, it's 2025, all these fellas can play football. Do you know what I mean? They're county footballers, they're not mullockers, they're all footballers as well. So, look, I'm sure it's all part of the game plan, and they know beforehand it's going to happen, so they have to buy into it. But you'd be saying, geez, you better make an impact. If he's going to go up that far, I hope he does something.
Yeah.
So that kind of way.
Yeah, the 2 boys did, in fairness. Morgan had a huge game. Beggan has 28 points, I think, so far in the league, or something outrageous like that. We might just fly through the leagues. I know you have the league tables there, Adam. It's going to be a dramatic weekend. I think TJ Carter are doing the red zone on Sunday. I think the first game throws in at 1 o'clock, and then that's in Division 4, I think, and then all Division 1 games throw in at 3:45. But just at the top of Division 1 there, you've Galway on 8, Dublin on 8, Donegal on 8, Mayo on 7, Kerry 6, Armagh 5, Tyrone 5, Derry already relegated. And the games this weekend, Galway and Kerry, Mayo and Donegal, Armagh and Derry, Tyrone and Dublin. Any game you're looking forward to in particular there? Donegal made 10 changes last weekend. They're fully within their rights to do it. It's probably good timing for Mayo to play them in a sense as well. Mayo could be in around the league fight. They could overtake Donegal and possibly end up in a league final if results go their way as well. Any particular game there tickling your fancy?
Yeah, well, I think just on Donegal Mayo, I think we have to assume that Donegal are going to do the same thing again, and they're not going to play their full team. I know Jim McGuinness kind of got maybe a bit defensive about it and said that they're not actively trying to lose the game, but that's fair enough. But at the same time, you're kind of making a statement there when you're leaving out some of your best players. You kind of have to read between the lines there and say, okay, they probably don't want to win that game. So yeah. Mayo are in good shape for the league final in that regard. I think a big one. Look, I'm going to be in Galway for the Kerry Galway game. Kerry are in a kind of unique position in that they can still get relegated, and they can still get a league final if they beat Galway by more than 3 points. A league final comes into play for them. I think Dublin versus Tyrone is going to decide an awful lot, because if Tyrone lose, they're going to get more than likely be going down. If Dublin win, they'll be in the league final. If Kerry get that 3-point win against Galway, they're looking at that Dublin Tyrone game, because if Dublin lose that game, that means Kerry get into the final. So there's various permutations there, but I mean it's remarkably wide open. 6 points normally keeps you up 99% of the time, and you could have a situation this year where it could be a team on 7 points goes down, maybe on scoring difference. So yeah, it's incredibly tight. But I think looking at the table there, I think Kerry will find it tough against Galway away, especially without Diarmuid O'Connor in midfield. Galway at home as well. I think it could end up the same way it's looking right now, with Dublin and Galway at the top of the table come the end on Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be kind of my thinking as well. It's funny though, Donegal aside, Mayo, Kerry, I'd imagine would both been in a Division 1 final, particularly from a Kerry point of view, not probably going to be tested severely maybe in Munster. A league final would be great for them. From a Dublin point of view, with all the old guard gone out the door, I'd say a league final, and potentially maybe if they're able to win a league title, it'd be huge for a young group, and particularly with new leaders emerging and that type of thing. Loads of different permutations in one. Might bring up 2 there where there's all sorts of permutations. At the top, it's Monaghan on 10, Roscommon on 8, Meath on 8, Cavan on 8. Cork on 6 are probably safe now. They should be actually, yeah. Louth on 4, down on 4. Westmeath already relegated. Just a quick one on Roscommon. What did you make of Davy Burke's comments? They're playing Westmeath this weekend, who are down the bottom of the table and already relegated. And he said, that's it for us now during the league. Our league is over. We'll go and make up the numbers down in Westmeath, but we don't deserve to be in a final after that. What do you reckon? Like, they're heavy odds on to be in a league final still, despite losing twice.
Yeah, he comes out with some gems, that fella, like, doesn't he? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, is he just kind of saying it to kind of light a fire under the players and say, look, sure, if we're going to play it that, we might as well forget about it, and then come back this week and say, look, lads, we have to redeem ourselves, and obviously we're going to go for it and this kind of stuff. But as you said, they are odds on to make the final. Like, they're playing Westmeath, who are winless, like, they're on 0 points, so like you'd be back in Roscommon there if you're back in anyone, really. Like, I know Meath and Cavan still have a realistic chance as well. They could come down to scoring difference with teams maybe level on 10 points at the end of it. But it's looking like Monaghan and Roscommon there, in spite of what the manager thinks of their chances, or supposedly thinks of their chances anyway.
Monaghan are playing some stuff, put up 129 against Meath the other day, and what I really liked as well, they had the breeze in the first half, and they brought on Jack McCarron after about 15 or 20 minutes to make use of the breeze. I love when a manager sees something midstream and says, "Oh, okay, we need to take advantage of this." He put over a couple of 2-pointers, obviously, and they had an insurmountable lead. Meath tried to claw it back, but they couldn't get back any closer. That's going to be really interesting this weekend with Monaghan against Down. Louth against Meath, with local derby in 2010 is always on their minds, particularly Louth minds. Roscommon go to Westmeath. I'm at that game myself, actually, and Cavan against Cork. Division 3. I don't know about you, Adam. I'm an Offaly man. I definitely didn't see this coming, and I didn't see last weekend's result coming. Offaly on top of the table with 10 points. It was a comprehensive enough win against Kildare in the wind-up. Finished 2-17-17. The rules and the way the game has been played now, absolutely made for Offaly. It's gas. They don't have a load of big men around the middle. But they're still surviving on their own kickouts and on opposition kickouts. But when the ball is on the ground and when they're bringing ball up the pitch so fast, real mobile, powerful, smaller, kind of more dynamic players, like John Furlong got up for a point from centre back. Darren McDade got up from corner back to win a penalty. Conor McEgan got up from wing back to score 3 points. I don't know about you, but the best thing I see about the new game is it's one-on-one everywhere. And if you have the skill, and even in some cases the pace or the power to beat your man, it's like the whole thing just opens up in front of you. And if you're able to take on your man and beat him, it's just a different game now. There's no wall waiting behind them. There's no blanket waiting behind. And it's brilliant. It's fascinating to look at.
Yeah, it's great. And you know what? What I like about it is that it's filtering down to every level of the game, every division. I think when the rules were changed initially, or the talk of the rule changes came in, some people were like, "Oh, sure, this is going to suit Kerry and it's going to suit Dublin and it might not suit the other teams." But like, it depends what level you're at. If your level is Division 3 or Division 4 and you have the better footballers at that level, it'll suit you. And look, that's what we want to see. We want to see football getting rewarded rather than mass defenses and this kind of thing that's slowing the game down. So it's great. Look, Offaly, look, they're I'd say you can bank on them now to get over the line there. I think Clare are still in contention. Obviously, if Clare win that match against Offaly, they'll both be on 10. Then you'd expect Kildare to beat Antrim as well. So there'll be 3 on 10. Obviously, the head-to-head goes out the window. If there's 3 teams on 10, it'll go to scoring difference. And Clare would need to beat Offaly by 11 points to turn that around. You'd be looking at probably at Offaly Kildare there, I'd say.
Just quickly, and it's at the bottom end of the table. What did you make of the Leitrim debacle?
It's bizarre. It's really weird. Like, I know I don't want to be kind of part of a pile-on now, because I know he's getting Poacher's getting an awful lot of abuse online and stuff like that, a lot of stick. But I just don't really get it. Like, I don't see what. Like, I don't in general in football or hurling or any sport, soccer or whatever you're playing. Like, not fielding a team. It's just. It's not really acceptable at any level. Like, if you enter the competition, you have to make an honest effort to fulfill the fixtures. And I've been involved I've been in situations where I've been called out of bed at 9 o'clock in the morning after a night out on Saturday night to go down and play a Junior B match down in South Kerry because we're Legion are short a player for the Junior B match, and like you get up and do it. Like, and I know it's a different kind of circumstance, but like you have to have pride in the jersey, like, and pride in what you're representing. And like, for the manager to pull it, and then the way he's talking, like he's saying about the players now, like it seems like he's kind of putting players under the bus and saying that some fellas don't have the right mindset, and this kind of, like, I don't know, he'd be better off not talking at all. Like, I don't know what he thinks he's getting out of it.
Yeah, the thing about Stephen obviously would have been on this show regularly, and himself and Enda Vardy had a football show a couple of years ago. There's a time to talk, I think, and there's a time to say nothing. And he obviously did the initial interview with RTE, and that came out or whatever. I think you just kind of keep stum thereafter, and you try and get things in order. You try and basically, get everything, cross the T's and dot the I's, make sure that you give yourself the best chance possible to be able to field the team next weekend and prepare as best as possible. But he's given oxygen to all sorts of other things, and even calling substandard practices from previous managements. Like, off the top of my head, the two previous managers are Andy Moore and Terry Hyland, who both got them out of Division 4 to Division 3. Do you know what I mean? Like, so things obviously weren't. And Andy Moore, Terry's been around the block as a manager and had success most places he went. Andy's with a coach with Monaghan now, who are playing, the best football they've played in a long time. So it's not like, you're dealing with like rookies or anything here, or reigns that didn't work out well. And like, even the story where Emlyn Mulligan and I think like a good handful of other former Leitrim players wanted to give him a dig out, and they were kind of basically told no or whatever. Listen, there are complications with that nowadays. If you do play, I think it's even difficult with registrations and stuff like that now, that you're registered an awful lot early. You can't just, as you say, you can't just pull a lad out of bed at 9 o'clock and have a play or whatever. And then there's GPA ramifications with grants and gear and all that kind of stuff as well. But to me, you do whatever is possible to go and fulfill that fixture, and not end up in the malaise that we're in now. And I didn't actually see the final result of the 20s last night, but they were being comprehensively beaten when I looked last. You might just look it up there on the Leitrim Twitter. There were 15 points to 1-2 down, and there was a large cohort. I think it was 5 or 6 guys that were guaranteed starters from the senior team there. But it's a situation that no county wants to be in, and I think there was far too much oxygen given to it when it could have just been killed dead in the water. They did this or whatever. It's definitely not ideal, but we're just going to regroup and try and go again.
Yeah, they lost. It was 110 to 121, so they lost by 11.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't help the mood either, and the mood is not good in Leitrim at the minute. It's going to be, everyone's going to be watching with bated breath to see what happens over the next while. Not too much to talk about in Division 4, Adam, just because Wexford are in a very good spot up the top, and they look like they're going to be promoted, and there's a bit of a fight on for second place there as well. But I know you're a big retro jersey man. And yeah, I haven't seen any of these retro jerseys that you're going to pull up. I hope I'm able to recognise them all with a bit of luck and in around the time period. But I love a bit of nostalgia, no more than you do as well. So you might just walk us through a couple of these. They're probably going to put me on the spot with a few of them as well, which is okay.
Yeah, so all these photos are from. I have a kind of a side quest there, vintage GA jerseys over on Instagram if anyone wants to check it out. But what I picked out there just for us to look at is some of the most popular vintage jerseys from maybe the 90s, maybe the early 2000s. These are the ones that people really want. I've thrown in a couple as well that are just kind of interesting sponsors and things like that maybe I might be able to talk about as well. So I'm going to start with the Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. 97?
It was actually 98, 98, 99. Adidas came in. So obviously the appeal of this one is obvious. It was the only county jersey ever with the Adidas logo printed on it. There's obviously a ban against foreign companies making GA gear. There was a vote supposed to happen on it actually at Congress recently, but I think it got pushed back about whether or not foreign companies were going to be allowed to come in. But this jersey is like, I mean, it's like gold dust. If you have it, get on to me because I'm looking for it. But no, it's really, really popular. It's cool. It's kind of it's very distinctive. So people from all over the country and all over the world are looking for that one. So that's that one. There's a really interesting one.
Morris Fitz, like that's what you think of him, isn't it? Straight away,
100%. Yeah, and it's like double XL hanging off him, like it's massive, yeah. But this is another big one as well. But this is the Limerick jersey from 1997. So, and they wore it 98, 99 as well. So what's interesting about this one is obviously the sponsor, drug-free, cool. And the backstory behind this is that in 1997, Limerick reached they got a sponsorship deal with the Midwestern Health Board for £200,000 at the time. But the health board didn't want to put their own branding on it because they said, like, we don't need sponsorship, or we don't need that kind of visibility. Like, we're kind of a kind of body that doesn't need that. So that's not why they did it. So they wanted to put a kind of positive message on it, or maybe a health related message on it. So they ended up kind of suggesting a kind of anti-drug message on the front of the jersey. That's where drug free comes from. Obviously, cool is the Irish word for goal. The GA being the GA, they were against it at first. They said, no, you can't have any messaging on the jersey. It has to be a sponsor's name, whatever. Eventually they backed down, but this is a really rare jersey and really popular one as well. Just on sponsors, there's a couple of ones that stand out from the 90s straight away, just to run through them. Obviously we have the Cork Barry's tea. That's the kind of that's the iconic GA sponsor. That this one here is a match worn jersey from 1993. You have Tip Finches, the Finches sponsor as well. Really popular.
It's
with
beautiful, apart from the fact that it's a Tipperary jersey.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. It's just a nice font and everything on the sponsor's logo. Now,
just
this
go back
one is
to
all
Cork there for a second. Like, I love just how plain it is. Sometimes you need very little on a jersey. Like, that's beautiful. Like, that is a lovely jersey.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, it's lovely. Like, you do miss that kind of simplicity in the jerseys. And whenever companies go back to that, like carrying back to the kind of traditional style with Galvin there about 7 years ago, fans love it. Like, they eat it up because it just harks back to the old days. And you can't beat Barry's tea. Now, this one is interesting. This is a match-worn Clare jersey from 1999. I'm sure, Verney, you can work out whose jersey this was.
Jesus, yeah. It's a wonder there's not blood on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Clare lost that game as far as I know, but yeah, I had this in my collection for a while and I got rid of it. And you know what? I kind of regret getting rid of it now because obviously the great Brian Lohan, like, it's a lovely one to have. But and a couple of ones from Ulster here. The Armagh jersey from 2002. Very famous one, of course, coincided with their first All Ireland, and the kind of elasticated cuffs and the collar make it a very unique jersey. Derry, back in 1993, they had this with Spare and Metal. I miss these kind of obscure or kind of local companies, you know, like you'd never hear of them only for seeing them on a jersey. There's loads of examples of that throughout the 90s. Now you see a lot more kind of corporate stuff, you know, bigger companies and multinationals and things like that. But it's nice, and there's not even like a design on the logo. It's just like just plain Arial font, like no messing, like this, the name, and that's it. I've one here now, Verney.
They sponsored them for the guts of about a decade, I think, or more, because I have when the jerseys changed to like that kind of silk material, they were still sponsoring then. They had a beautiful one. I agree with you about the sponsors as well. There's something a lot more parochial about it when it's a local sponsor from within the county or whatever. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I'll put you on the spot with this one, Verney. Whose jersey is that? Oh, wow. I actually do it. Was it on home ground? You're dead right. Yeah, I remember your man. He's a famous enough Irish actor, but he didn't look like a footballer. I can tell you that. Yeah, so this is the Kildoran jersey, a fictitious team from On Home Ground, which was a short-lived series on RT in 2001. I think it's fairly obvious where the inspiration came from. It came from Harchester United and Dream Team. Yeah, I was just going to say Dream Team with Brill Cream, style and control. Exactly, yeah. So they obviously took the colours from that. Now, they didn't have the longevity of Dream Team. It only lasted 1 year. I remember being glued to that. No, I was only a young fella, but I remember being glued to it because I love Dream Team. And then it's like a GA version of that's going to be class, but unfortunately it didn't last. I don't know, could it be revisited? And I'll go show you one more. This is just, I have to finish on Kerry as well. I started on Kerry, so I'll finish on Kerry. This is a very famous jersey, or an infamous jersey, Kerry's away jersey from 2001. They obviously lost that year to Meath in the semi-final in kind of disastrous circumstances. So it's Kerry's only ever white away jersey. So it was considered an unlucky jersey, obviously, because they lost that game. They only wore it one more time. It was against Meath in the league the following season. They actually won that game, which people don't remember. But people, I don't know, the traditionalists in Kerry, there's lots of pishogues down around here, you know, superstitions. It was the white jersey's fault. So we haven't seen a white jersey yet, which is a shame because I think it was class. And this one actually, just to round it up, as you can see there, the signature, Morris Fitzgerald, and he says, "Up Kerry." So that's a nice one to bring into the collection. And
Not a very popular jersey for results reasons, but I think it looks pretty cool.
It's the gas. Basically, the story behind that is like the United been 3-0 down to Southampton at half time, changes their kick kind of job. They would have changed it if they could have had. Yeah, oh, that's great, Adam. Yeah, it's hard to beat a retro jersey, and it's amazing how popular. When you go to a match now, you see obviously a lot of the modern jerseys and the previous couple of years, but you'll always see a lot of people. I know Shane Lowry always rocks his old kind of retro Offaly jersey any match he's at, and he even had a picture up the other day of an old kind of retro jersey. But they're very, very popular now. And sure, you might get in with your comments there, lads, about what your favourite jerseys are down through the years and that. But that's it for another week, folks. We'll be back again next Thursday. We'll know the league finalists in hurling. We'll know who's promoted and who's been demoted across all 4 divisions. Delighted to be brought to you once again by Lotto Land, and we'll see you again next Thursday at 4 p.m. Take her handy, Adam.
Good luck, Bernie.